TalkLinked, it's back with the number one co-host, as voted by you, the viewers of America.
I feel like I haven't been on TalkLinked in like 2.5 years.
Well, that's because we haven't done it in like 2.5 years.
All right, let's get into it.
But then we started doing it again. Guess what we're talking about today, James?
AI-generated art?
See, this is why I love you on TalkLinked. You just want to cut right to the point.
Yeah. Don't waste the viewer's time. Information density, let's go.
I just want to know how you're doing. The reason we're here is because a news story just came out today about a synthetic media artist, Jason Allen. I think that actually came out yesterday. But he won the Colorado State Fair Fine Arts Competition in the digital arts category. And good for him, you know?
Those judges got to catch up.
Yeah. Wait, why? What do you mean?
Because an AI generated his entry.
Oh, well, that was the key detail that I hadn't gotten to yet.
Yes.
The reason he won was because he isn't actually an artist at all, arguably. He used a
We both
AI,
did that head thing at the same time.
He used an AI called Midjourney and used a special prompt that he will be publishing, quote unquote, at a later date.
Well, that's his whole process. That's his 11 herbs of spices is that secret prompt.
Right, exactly.
What combination of text yielded this art piece?
Yeah, so the whole story came about firstly because of this tweet that I'll click into. That someone was very upset about this, but apparently he goes by Sincarnate on Discord or whatever, and he talked about his win here, and he's like, hey, that's so great, look at this, I used a personal project he's made using Midjourney, and yeah, people are upset about it. James, is AI art? First of all, is it art? And then we'll talk about whether, you can take credit for it.
Oh, let's just start with the most philosophical and abstract question. I guess the crux of anyone who's squeamish to answer that with anything but a fast yes or no, that person was probably grappling with the question of, does art need to be generated by humans? Really, what it comes down to. Is it art? I mean,
well, in order to answer that question, you have to ask, what is art?
Well, I think that the thing with art is the fuzziness of it. And when you're talking about a computer generating it, it seems more like a computation. This is an output. It's deterministic. The machine will create this output every single time because it's a computer. But that's actually not true, because these art generators, they output multiple different iterations every time you hit enter, right? So even with this same text prompt, you probably won't get this exact piece ever again. So in that sense, it still has that ephemeral quality of it and that fuzziness, making it art.
See, I would argue that's a good point.
Thank you.
But I would argue that art has to have some sort of intentionality behind it. Because if it wasn't intended to be produced in a certain way, then it may evoke feelings in the viewer or in the person experiencing it. Whether it's an image or music or whatever, it may evoke certain feelings, but you go and look at a beautiful mountain and you feel something. That doesn't make the mountain art.
So you're saying that there's an intentionality of the person creating the prompt. This is a collaborative effort between the person at the keyboard and the AI.
Yes.
And the person at the keyboard has an intention of what they want. That's why they create the string that they do in the way that they create it.
Right.
However, there is a distance there where I just have to roll the dice and see what the AI is going to output. Right? It just gives you a random, here's a few things.
Yeah.
And so I don't control that. I can try to approximate it with my words. But then the thing actually doing the generation of the art, the AI, it doesn't have intentionality. Well, its intention is to try to closely, produce something that matches what you've said. But it doesn't have it's not trying to make a statement. It doesn't have, so this collaborative effort, the intentionality is kind of severed. So
exactly.
That's why you think it's not art.
Yeah, I feel like you need to have, so I think the thing that just popped in my head was like a choose your own adventure story or like a multiple choice test. Let's go with choose your own adventure. An author has written out a number of possible branching paths for a story to take. And as you're reading this choose your own, I'm thinking about the books, but that's not really a thing anymore. Maybe it is. Let's say it's a Netflix.
God, just keep it as books. For the love of God.
Sure, it's one of these books that used to exist. And if you by reading through the book and then being like, these are the options presented to me by this person that actually generated something, and I'm going to choose this one, And okay, now you're going along this path, but that doesn't mean that you generated that story. You just put in an input. You're putting in some inputs to some system. The system is generating
Right, but so this
things.
system just has myriad, just infinitely more inputs.
And even more problematically, the system is based on work that was actually originally created by real human artists.
Well, that's a really interesting part of it.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't want to say, like, I'm not trying to be here being like this new technology that is, I'm not trying to hate on like new technology just because it's new. But I think that like, while it is exciting and while it is a very interesting technology that we should explore, I think that right now it's kind of like the Wild West, where there isn't any regulation. People are still asking these questions. We're having a TalkLinked right now talking about it. So we need to have these conversations and then like break it down into what does this mean for copyright? What does this mean for the future of artistry as like a career?
Or even competitions.
Like,
do you have to film yourself creating the art now and submit that as part of your competition package?
Which is what one person on a Reddit thread suggested in response to this fact that this guy like won this art competition using AI art. And the key detail is that he did not. It's the details seem a little murky right now, but at least some of the judges have said that they didn't know it was AI art, and he has said himself that he's like, oh, what? I needed to let them know. That was in the Vice article, I believe, at the bottom.
I mean, I don't know anything about this person's intentions, but it's pretty obvious that that wasn't the spirit of the competition. For you fucking idiot.
Exactly. I mean, I can understand.
This is almost like a form of performance art, like it's a stunt.
Exactly. I can understand him saying, I want to bring attention to this.
Yeah.
I want to show what this tool Midjourney can do. So I'm going to stealthily enter with my AI art, and then when I win, I'm going to be like, haha, look at this. This was actually AI art, and now I've started a conversation, and now we're talking about this. But then I think what he should have done is be like, okay, but I didn't actually win. Here's
the
second
prize
place.
money. Yeah.
Because now you have these people who actually created art losing, and they're like,
I think that makes it way crappier. That makes it way stinkier of a situation because
it's a stinky.
Because there are people who are outraged and they're disappointed that the world's going this way, and they're worried about the future and what this means for artists around the world and the volume of art that will be created by humans going forward. And it's kind of dystopian, but that dystopian viewpoint is greatly enhanced by people being crappy like this.
Exactly.
And being like, what do you mean? This is valid just like everyone else. Like, no, dude.
I think that like there's always this pushback against hard backlash, right? When something cool happens, like say blockchain technology, and people are like, okay, cool, we're building this technology. In the early days, it's like, oh, the scammers
like,
and the pump and dumpers, and now there's all these scams out there, and there's a huge backlash being like, cryptocurrency is evil and bad, and it should never be used, and it can only be used as this pump and dump stuff. And then you have people being like, okay, wait, but remember in the early days there was this promise, and we could use it for that still, but the well is poisoned. You know? And I think that's happening a little bit with AI art right now.
It's going to be a way different outcome, though, because the AI art is just, it's simpler. It's more straightforward. The future is here now. Deal with it now. You know what I mean? Like, all graphic artists, you're in trouble.
Right.
Within the next 2 years. Stock imagery sites, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And this is going to upend industries and change laws for sure.
And it's moving super rapidly. Like this technology at the beginning of this year was super, super rudimentary and it wasn't available. And then OpenAI released DALL-E 2. Google released their thing that I forget what it's called. I think Imagen, I think it's called. And now you go and there's lists of like the 10 coolest.
It's getting even crazier because DALL-E had some built-in kind of filters where you can't do a human's face, right? You can't do pornography,
right?
Whereas Stability AI,
Stable Diffusion,
it is released open source. It has some filters that are enabled by default. That's just so you don't type something in and get a result that's pornographic, and you're like, oh, I didn't want that,
right?
But you can disable this filter. And you can create celebrity likenesses. You can make, like, I've seen a bunch of pictures of Charlize Theron's face. I knew it was her. There was no label saying it was Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
I could tell it's her in multiple styles and angles.
Right.
And so it's, what does this mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And you can run this on your desktop GPU. It's only supports NVIDIA GPUs right now, but
Right.
I don't have to rely on a cloud service for this.
Yeah, I mean, like when deepfakes first came out, people were like, oh my gosh, people are using their GPUs to like run these computations and do it at home. And that was one thing, because if you didn't really have access to the hardware to like run those simulations over and over, or run those computations, then you wouldn't be able to make deepfakes. But now all of these AI art generators are on the web. You can just go to a URL and put in a prompt and get images. And so this is a TechCrunch article talking about what the generator we were just mentioning, Stable Diffusion. I think it's in a program called Dream AI or something. I forget what it's called. But people are using it to make porn of existing people and upload it to 4chan. Lovely site.
It's just images for now. That's the difference with
Yes.
deepfakes. This is just images for now, not video, but it'll be video within 2 or 3 years.
For sure. I mean, yeah, like there's deepfake videos, and yeah, that I'm sure there will be generators quite soon.
Like, have you watched like that really low quality animated children's content on YouTube? Like, not to throw Little Baby Bum under the bus, but Little Baby Bum is it's nursery rhyme songs with just like pretty bad animation, 3D animation along with it, and kids love it. My kid watched it for a year and a half straight, every day, all day. Like, just love it. In the future, you could potentially just play the song and just have the animation generated and just put that onto your YouTube channel. Even less work, and you can monetize that YouTube channel and get rich very easily.
I don't doubt that is the future. I mean, that's video stuff, and we have to watch out for that coming. But I mean, yeah, the still images are being used right now. This is an Atlantic article from earlier this month.
I love the Atlantic.
I do as well.
You subscribe?
No.
Oh, you should.
But when people send a link and it's an Atlantic link, I'm like, okay.
A man of taste. Anyway, what's in the article?
This, it's a regular article. No AI was involved in the creation of the words, but that's a Midjourney created image. It says the prompt was Alex Jones inside an American office under fluorescent lights.
It's a perfect use for that. Yeah, and there goes a graphic designer's job. Right. So
that is something that would be traditionally. I mean, yeah, this is like a perfect example. Like, it's real world. This is a lost gig.
I think graphic designers will continue to exist, and I think they will use these tools. When you're speccing out a job, you're probably going to go, all right, well, here's 5 different things that I created in the last 10 minutes using one of these tools.
Right.
Which one do you like?
Right.
You like this one? Okay, now I'll go and make a better version of that.
Exactly.
Because a lot of these things, when you zoom in, they're actually not that nice. So you might not use it for like your corporate logo or something like that.
Although there are services which use AI to generate logos. You put in like your company name, some details about you, your industry, style that you maybe want, and they will create an AI created logo for you. And like there are options, and then I'm sure you can refine it.
Depending on that AI, like who has the copyright? Because with DALL-E retains the copyright to the images that you generate.
Right.
Which is weird. Kind of.
DALL-E retains the copyright?
OpenAI does, yeah. Not you.
See, but that's the thing, is that like, should they have copyright at all? Because what is DALL-E trained on? They're trained on all of these other artists that initially created the work.
The whole internet, like just a general web scrape of paid content. Like Shutterstock, you need to have a subscription, and then they just take those billions of things and monetize it while putting Shutterstock out of business.
Oh my God.
That's
Exactly.
just totally not fair. I think in the future it could be possible that anyone who wants to create one of these models using a corpus of imagery will have to license all that imagery to feed the model. But like, how do you enforce that?
Yeah, I mean, we need regulation, which is kind of, it's funny because this is like on the cutting edge of what's going on right now, and to even think about how long it'll be before a bunch of old people in the U.S. Congress or Senate or elsewhere start to like become familiar with this as a phenomenon and then craft legislation around it. It's gonna be a while.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. And
well, it could happen. It'll just be a couple years.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rocky road. There's other legal aspects as well. Like, you can create a artwork of a celebrity's face. You could sell a painting of Morgan Freeman. And
could I?
Yes, but it's kind of like fair use. It's a gray. You have to make like an argument for it a little bit. So, for example, if you created a work where the the work was completely just like a photo, like looked like a photo of Morgan Freeman, then you probably would have to get the permission to sell that. But if you created a work like an Andy Warhol style, where the work isn't just that it's his photo, it's not just his likeness that makes the work cool, it's that you stylized it.
Right.
And it came from raw materials like paint, then you don't even need to get this person's permission, especially if it's just a one-off. Like you're making caricatures or something on the street on Vegas, rather than making this one art piece that I'm going to make a bazillion of and sell them all.
Right. If you were doing that with a picture of Morgan Freeman's face, you'd probably run into some sort of legal...
It's similar to fair use in that one of the pillars of it is, does it materially impact that person's ability to monetize their likeness?
Right.
Right?
If you make one painting of Morgan Freeman and sell it to one person, I mean, depending on how expensive it is, maybe Morgan Freeman would be like, hey, wait a second.
Here's the question, because now you've got this thing that can create many thousands of images of Morgan Freeman,
right?
But it's only creating them. You made one and sold it, and that was inconsequential.
Yeah.
Because Riley just sold one, so Morgan Freeman's not going to sell.
And
Morgan Freeman's not going to sue you.
Yeah, and no one's paying millions of dollars of art for my art.
But what if millions of individuals each make their own Morgan Freeman thing? So it does materially impact his ability to monetize his likeness.
Right.
But there's no individual to attack because each individual only sold it once. So do you attack the open source?
Well, honestly, that's kind of the question we're faced with here, because these AI generators are mass producing now that millions of people have access to these online. They sign up for the wait list. There's not even like the big ones, the really good ones, you have to sign up, like DALL-E you had to register for and wait until you get access. Stable Diffusion, well,
same thing, but they publicly released it now.
It's publicly released. There's tens of these, dozens of these more online that you can just go to a URL and put it in, and you don't need to wait at all. So now there are millions of people potentially using these art generators to generate countless works of art based on
whatever.
Yeah, original art pieces by human people.
Yeah, that's the other thing, because they're not coming from raw materials.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
like your paint on the canvas. The materials are coming from these other presumably copyrighted, often.
I just had a conversation with David prior to this about whether this is like plagiarism or not. And I'm like, well, okay, so it's not plagiarism because you're using these people's art as sort of like a training tool for AI to generate something new, right? So like if plagiarism is just copying it, that's on one end of the spectrum. And on the other side maybe is, looking at it from the frame of when you paint, you're using materials that you didn't make from scratch. You're buying this existing pigment and, making something completely new from it, but you didn't make it completely from scratch. There's other people's work going into that as well. So like that's on the other end of the spectrum. And AI art is kind of somewhere in the middle, but I'm inclined to put it a little bit more towards plagiarism. It's not plagiarism.
Well, it's all arbitrary. It all comes down to the abilities of the entity. It's not plagiarism if I do a perfect replica of a Starry Night, because obviously I was influenced by the original work, and then I had to do all this analog, very high skill work to like mix the paint correctly,
right,
and years of skill for me to actually render it.
Yeah.
But all that stuff is just trivial to a machine.
Right.
So it's only because the entity in question, the machine, is better at doing it than you are.
But I guess that's the question. Is there value in a machine learning to do this skill? Should we because it's not an agent. It's not a conscious agent. I mean, according to not according to Blake
Well, it's interesting because when you use Midjourney, you're interacting with a bot. It's not like you're on a Google looking page with a search bar. You're in Discord and you're interacting with the bot. You type the prompt you want, it returns an image, and then you can say make more of them or change it in this way, and it's like you're having a conversation with an artist in a way, and you're kind of collaborating.
But that's just an artifice. That's not, the bot is just a window into using the service available on the cloud or whatever.
For sure. For now. Soon it'll be Scarlett Johansson.
Soon they'll add actual AI chatbot functionality in there, and then you're talking to
it'll be very weird
to the AI.
Yes.
And they're like, okay, so when you say a bird flying over a ship, do you mean like a big ship or like a little ship? Like this is the AI talking to you about it?
Yeah.
See,
And then make that by voice.
if we like combine these technologies,
yes.
because that's even scarier. Like it's one thing to say, all right, I work in an auto factory, a car factory, and they're replacing my, job screwing in these rivets with a robot.
Robotic arm.
That's one thing. Another thing is saying, okay, you have this creative career. You thought you were safe from the AI for a while, but now literally your entire job, like consultation, sample work for inspiration or whatever, any other type of parameters that you would discuss with a person ahead of time, you can do with AI because we have these language AIs, and then we also have these art generating AIs.
Yeah, so what does that mean?
Even if AI doesn't achieve this like general sentience that that is like far in the future with singularity, et cetera, even if we don't achieve that, it's like we're functionally going to achieve something very similar to it because of all these other systems that are coming together.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Well, it begs the question, like, what happens to artists? So does it mean that you've got it? I think it'll stratify it. Like it'll make it more disparate. Like you'll have billionaires and impoverished people, so to speak. You'll have the artists or graphic designers who are only using these tools, and then you'll have the very high level, highly skilled artists. Mm-hmm. But
I mean,
I guess it's good to be one of them, but there'll be so few of them, right?
Yeah. Well, as this was a reply in the original tweet where someone kind of like whistle blew on this guy bragging about his achievement. Omnimorpho on Twitter says, "We're watching the death of artistry unfold right before our eyes. Even high-skilled jobs, you're saying, oh, there will be some high-skilled artists, but like even those guys, I mean, maybe there'll be like a handful, literally under 10.
The thing you have to think about though is the convergence or the homogenization of art, because right now all of these generators are using a data set that is virgin, that is created by humans. All the info that's feeding them was photographs taken by humans, art pieces drawn by humans. But now that millions of pieces are coming out as output from these generators, that means the internet at large is growing in its proportion of stuff that was made by robots, right? And so if that continues to expand to the point where like half the stuff on the internet was made by robots, then when the next AI is programmed and fed into it is outputs from robots, it'll become more and more like it's self-referential.
Yeah, this was Horst. I was talking to him before as well, and he specifically asked me to bring this up. Like he likened it to re-encoding videos. The more that you re-encode the same video file, the more the quality degrades. So it's like eventually are these AI art generators just going to be feeding off themselves again and again and again until it's just like a blurry mess. So I guess
I don't think that. I mean like stylistically. Like to me, I liken it as this is a pet theory.
Well, I guess
of mine.
it won't be the same as like the resolution is worse, but maybe
it would be like Hollywood taking over the world, and all film is just like every movie has to be like an MCU movie, or everyone has to do their makeup like Kim Kardashian because we all use Instagram and we all look at that one celebrity and we all want that face.
Yeah.
So then all the data will just make this kind of art. So therefore, maybe the last remaining highly skilled artists will be the wackiest artists who are making the most original kind of stuff because it just looks so different from what is generated from the AI.
You know what? It might actually happen is carcinization.
Cancer?
Nope. Carcinization.
What is it?
It's the phenomenon of the phenomenon wherein organisms, multiple branches of organisms on evolutionary pathways, all become crabs. This is a meme.
Yeah, I heard of that.
Like we're going back to crab. Animals keep evolving into crabs, and scientists, well, this one says scientists don't know why, but they do know why. It's because it's like advantageous, that's the word, in some way. So maybe we'll have the equivalent of everything going back to crab.
All AI music generators eventually create crab rape.
Oh, speaking of which, we didn't even, real quick, this isn't like entirely a new phenomenon. They've been doing this with music for some time now, in that they feed in music to an AI. It generates like melodies and rhythms and stuff. And in some cases, it generates the audio directly, but most of the time, it doesn't sound very good. So what they'll do instead is they'll feed music into, like they'll say, we want a Jimi Hendrix style song. They'll feed a million Jimi Hendrix songs to an AI, and it'll make MIDI data or like sheet music, and then the humans will recreate it with like, and in some cases, they like it writes lyrics and everything as well, but then humans will.
Do other people share my opinion that I'm less bothered by this? I think this is less bothersome. And the reason is popular music can't get any worse.
Exactly. I think that music is, I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. I feel like we probably shouldn't get into it.
No.
It doesn't bother me that much, but I will say that, like, you know, it seems like with music, human-generated music will always be more important to people. I don't think, like, because I think part of that is like sort of the personality, the cult of personality around like an artist. If you like their music, you're gonna be like, wow, I kind of want to listen to more of their music.
Yeah.
And if it's an AI,
the AI is gonna have to generate some very personal histories in the lyrics.
yeah, like, are people gonna go to a concert?
No, because live music
by...
is already differentiated from recorded music. You go to see live music because
you go to see the phenomenon of this. Well, but then in the age of EDM, people
you don't go there to see that.
You're
live.
not going
you go
to see
there
the
do
performance,
drugs.
sure. But I mean, like, you know, more people are going to a show by, I don't even know what the big EDM guy is now, but like a few years ago, maybe it was Deadmau5. Like, people go to the show because it's that guy that I like, and not because the music is particularly really good. It's because you liked a few of their tracks, and so now like you have this idea in your head.
Yeah,
but we're not going to do that for AI.
No one's. You mean for art? Like, no one's going.
Or maybe it will. I mean, VTubers are a thing. Miku from Vocaloid or whatever. There's these, like, you know, virtual idols in Japan and whatnot. They go on stage as a hologram. They're dancing. People are like, I'm a fan of this idol person.
Bah.
And if it was just an AI, but at the end of the day, if you really wanted like a distinct sound, there would have to be some sort of human input. But that's not even true. I'd take it back.
Well, actually,
because far in the future, maybe there is like an AI that was like tuned with specific parameters, and people are like, I'm a fan.
Or you just
randomize.
You randomize the parameters. Like, part of stability diffusion is you can make derivative products with it.
Yeah.
As long as the license gets passed down, you can make derivative products, and you can tune some parameters such that the art that it creates is more of a certain style.
For sure. And there's commercial services that do that. Like Soundful. I just found this like right before we
Art Breeder.
Yeah, there's a bunch of services like this, but like Soundful, you know, you start in there, you choose a genre, you customize it, you like choose a beat, you choose some instruments. They're all pre-recorded, pre-done, and then you can like put it together and make something like, quote unquote new.
You could make like a Nine Inch Nails AI. You're like, he really loves this mode and this interval. Use these instruments, and whatever it puts out will sound nailsy.
Exactly.
And the same thing could happen with visual art too.
Oh man.
And if that's just randomized, people could become fans of certain AIs that they really like their style.
Right. Okay, so last question, and then we're done. I know you really, really hate this, James. You want to go.
I gotta get out of here.
What do you think should be the situation? What should we head towards as a society when it comes to like AI generated art? Should we respect AI generated art as like, you know, on a somewhat equal playing field, or should it be like should it be as denormalized or despecialized as, you know, I don't know, some commodity that you can like mass produce no problem?
I generally think like the technology is here, so deal with it kind of approach. Like, we shouldn't be trying to stop this or slow it down. We have to just adapt. The toothpaste is out of the tube for a lot of this stuff in terms of they already made this AI. They already scraped these copyrighted images. Sorry, Getty. But in terms of how we conceptualize it, how we think of it, I think that it is similar to VFX. You watch a movie, has great VFX, you're like, wow, that was very enjoyable to watch. And then you watch another movie and you go, yeah, that wasn't that crazy, but you know they did all the stunts. That's real. That was all practical. He actually climbed that building. He actually jumped from that train.
Right.
When you know that a human did it, you give it this extra love. Like, it earns your respects in this other layer. I think we're just gonna have to do it with art. Hey, that's a nice painting. And wow, a human did that from scratch? That's amazing. I don't see that often.
Oh, you think the norm is going to be like AI art is ubiquitous and it's everything, but then when there's something extra special.
Yeah, because this is like anything else. This is democratizes art more. You know, I suck at drawing, but now I can make this. So it's like making music on your laptop. So it's going to be everywhere. It's going to take over.
I don't think it's like making music on your laptop because for that, it's like, okay, somebody else recorded an instrument and gave you all this data that you can then manipulate using MIDI files.
Everywhere
okay?
you see stock photos today, you're going to see AI-generated art. When
Sure,
I make a Squarespace website, I'm going to use original AI-generated art.
As a descriptive reality, yes, that's going to be true. But I think I'm saying that, from a normative framework, this is not the same as using like, it's been a while since I meddled in electronic music making. I forget what the actual files are called, but like the digital sounds, you're using a digital sound of a trombone and you press a key and it makes the trombone sound for that note. That's completely different because you're still generating the data. You're still doing it by hand, right? I think that with AI art, it should be the case that if you are an artist and you want your art to be included in these models, you can submit them to the database, and there should be a requirement that they, pay you royalties. And I know that our copyright system has lots of problems. It is not perfect, and this is going to go along with a much needed, reform of how we deal with copyright in general in the West.
We might just get rid of it. Just go more China style. It's just like it's irrelevant now. The pace of innovation is just so fast that
I think that it's going to be that way for a while as we're in the Wild West here. But I think that in a few years, as this becomes more and more normalized, there's going to be people asking for, to save artists in some way because
they don't make money already.
If this continues with no regulation, artists are out of a job. They're dead. Rip. And rip to this episode because James...
I just like to give you the last word.
You're good.
You want the last word.
That's the last word. It's rip. You took it, actually. So that's your word. My last word is... Thanks for watching TalkLinked. We'll be back. We can't have these go too long.
Rip Riley.
Subscribe to TalkLinked. Subscribe to They're Just Movies. See you later.
Thank you for having me.